One of the most unusual cases which Sherlock Holmes was ever called upon to solve began in a small private school for boys in the north of Belgium. The boys' dormitory at 4 in the morning, lighted by a full moon, looked quiet and peaceful. It would have been difficult to imagine that here began a train of events which filled 4 graves before it was stopped.
Monsieur Caroline, he has gone out.
Didn't you try to stop him?
I called his name. Perhaps he didn't hear or pretended not to. I was afraid to startle him.
Let us follow him. He must be going to the church.
You are going to die.
No. Nothing at all. Go back to sleep.
Deaths in 3 months, each one foretold by the writing on the church steps. I still think the police...
No.
But it's your own life. There is a man in London. He solved cases even more hopeless than this.
Sherlock Holmes?
You have thought of him. Let me write to him.
And ask him to do what?
To come here, investigate, find out who is responsible for those deaths, and how a schoolboy can tell in advance who is next to die.
And have the school invaded? A teacher's questioned, a boy's terrorized. I'll do my own investigating, Mademoiselle Grande, in my own way. Some weeks later, a letter arrived at Baker Street. Holmes read it over once to himself, and then aloud to me.
Monsieur Caroline, before his untimely death, was adamant that I should not write to you on these matters. And it will be a source of eternal regret to me that I allowed myself to be dissuaded from writing to you sooner, Mr. Holmes. Now, Monsieur Caroline is dead of natural causes, the doctor says, though I'm not sure he isn't mistaken. I pray that you will come to Arno without delay and lend us your assistance in putting an end to these ghastly occurrences. Respectfully yours, Marie Grand. You deduced that the writer of the letter was young.
Oh, come now, Holmes. I can do better than that. I'll even wager that she's attractive as well.
Better and better. And on what do you base these interesting conclusions?
Wishful thinking, my dear Holmes. Nothing else.
Wish no more. She's both young and attractive, with hair the shade of autumn honey.
And how did you read that between the lines?
This came along with the letter. A lovely shade, one must admit, and from a beautiful young woman at that.
Oh, come now, Holmes. That's neither logical nor factual, and even you know that.
You're not the only one privileged to think wishfully, my dear Watson.
So you're going to take the case?
If you pack, I'll arrange the tickets.
The boat train took us to Dover. By mid-morning the following day, Holmes and I were sitting in the headmaster's study at the Arno School, in the presence of Mademoiselle Marie Grand, who was indeed extremely attractive, with hair the exact shade of autumn honey.
You're quite certain you've told me everything, Mademoiselle Grand?
There is only the matter of the old woman, Mr. Holmes. I don't know, but you might consider her important.
Tell me about her.
Her name is Madame Soulet. She's a harmless, feeble-minded woman who sells charms and love potions to the ignorant. Some have called her a witch.
What is her part in this affair?
She admits she went to see those whose names were written on the church steps and offered to sell them a charm against the evil omen.
Most interesting. Did any of the victims purchase the charms?
I can only speak for Monsieur Caroline. He did not.
About the others, were they persons of wealth?
No, two were quite poor. The third moderately well off. We have no really wealthy people here in Arno, Mr. Holmes.
Except, of course, the Count de Passavant.
Do you know the Count, Mr. Holmes?
No, but I happened to notice his family coat of arms on a carriage we passed on our way here.
Oh, Monsieur Manelli. Monsieur Manelli, this is Mr. Holmes and his friend, Dr. Watson. Monsieur Manelli is our new headmaster.
Mademoiselle Grant has given you all the facts.
All the facts at her command. Perhaps you can supply additional ones.
I am afraid not. Mademoiselle Grant was a favorite member of the faculty here. She had Monsieur Carolin's confidence. Not I.
I see.
And now that I've had the honor of meeting you gentlemen, I hope you will forgive me if I go to join my class.
Certainly.
By the way, mademoiselle, Dr. Dimanche is waiting in the vestibule. Did you send for him?
Yes, I did. I'll go and fetch him now. I'll be back directly.
The boy, Holmes. You didn't ask to see the boy.
He can wait, Watson.
Well, he would have been the first person that I would want to have seen.
Because he did the writing on the church steps.
Yes.
Would you say that the chalk he wrote with was also of significance?
That. It's only an instrument.
Precisely, my dear Watson. So is the boy.
Mr. Holmes, this is Dr. Dimanche. Doctor, Mr.
How
Holmes,
do you do? Delighted.
and Dr. Watson.
I'm always happy to meet a colleague, Dr. Dimanche.
Thank you, so am I. I do hope I haven't kept you waiting. I came as soon as I received Mademoiselle's message.
Mademoiselle Grant tells me you are the physician who attended Monsieur Caroline when he died.
Yes, my last examination of him gave me no hint of what was coming.
Yet you're positive he died of natural causes.
There's no doubt about it.
3 other citizens of Arno died recently, each shortly after their names appeared on the church steps. Did you attend them also?
Arno is a small town, and I'm fortunate or unfortunate enough to be the only doctor here.
And previous to your present fortune or misfortune, you practiced in Paris.
Oh, I see. Mademoiselle Grant has briefed you well.
I told Mr. Holmes nothing of your past, Doctor.
Then how do you know?
You dress with the flair of a Parisian, Dr. Dimanche. You can't have been here very long, or you'll be wearing the local product.
I might have ordered this from Paris.
On the income of a country physician. What do you think, Watson?
It's hardly likely.
Capital, Mr. Holmes. Your powers of deduction haven't been overrated. But you didn't ask me here to discuss my clothes or my income. How can I help you?
Tell me exactly, what did Monsieur Caroline die?
Heart failure.
You performed no autopsy?
There was no need. The signs were obvious. But frankly, because of the unusual circumstances of the other deaths, I took the precaution of performing an autopsy. The cause of death was a natural heart attack.
Very wise, Doctor. And there was nothing suspicious about any of the other deaths?
Not one thing, Mr. Holmes.
I don't suppose you've any theory of your own concerning a connection between the prophecies and the deaths?
I have no theory, Mr. Holmes. The explanation lies either in the most extraordinary combination of coincidences or in some kind of prevision on the part of the boy, Antoine.
Do you believe in prevision or telepathy?
Years ago, my professor at Salpêtrière, he suggested there might be something in it. For myself, I don't know. I neither affirm nor deny.
Thank you for your cooperation, Doctor. What do you think, Watson?
Of coincidences? Of prevision. Prevision? Poppycock. Sheer poppycock.
That boy, on 4 separate occasions, was able to foretell the death of a citizen of Arnaud.
Well, there must be a logical explanation.
Oh, there is, Watson, there is.
Holmes, do you know how the 4 murders were done?
Yes, Watson, that part is simple. The difficulty will come when we try to prevent the 5th one.
This must be the church, Holmes.
Yes, I assume it is.
Aren't you going to examine it?
Wasted effort, Watson.
But this is the place where the death warnings were written.
If it comes to architecture, the Count's chateau interests me more, but right now I prefer to talk with a certain woman called Madame Soulet,
Why?
so that we may eliminate her from the picture entirely. Come along, Watson.
Come in.
Madame Soulet.
I was expecting you, Mr. Holmes.
I thought you would be. Do you know why I've come to see you?
For help, of course.
Score 1 to her, Holmes.
Let's call it information.
Trifling bits of information. For instance, how came the boy by his deadly prophecies? Whose hand made them come true?
Suppose we start with a bit even more trifling. You offered charms to the victims. How did you know who they were before they were struck down? There were no announcements made.
If the Englishman will cross my palm with English gold,
You'll tell me?
I'll give the Englishman a potion warranted to make him see so clearly that all the mysteries will be revealed to him. It is as potent as the belief of the one who buys and uses it. If those 4 had bought instead of turning me away, who knows?
But they did turn you away.
And now they are dead. May I sell you a potion, sir?
Perhaps later, Madame Soulet. Come, Watson.
Good day, Madame Soulet.
You are a wise man. You speak little, but you listen well.
What now, Holmes?
I'd like you to do me the favor of going to Paris.
Paris?
I require some information.
Oh, of course I'll go if you think it's necessary, but I had hoped to be with you tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
It's a full moon. To see if the boy walks.
Cheer up, old man. I'll tell you all about it. What I require of you is far more important than what may transpire tomorrow night.
What is it? What happened?
Nothing at all, Antoine. You were walking in your sleep. Go back to bed like a good chap.
I can't. There's something I must do.
Not tonight. Not tonight.
Yes, monsieur.
Madame Soulet.
The boy did not come.
You were waiting for him.
Yes, I was waiting.
There'll be nothing written on the church steps tonight, or for that matter, any other night.
You are wrong, Mr. Holmes.
I should have guessed.
I have here a charm. It will keep you safe. I'll sell it to you for only 10 francs, Mr. Holmes. Certainly your life is worth 10 francs.
To me, at least.
Yes. Carry it with you, always.
Thank you.
Didn't I tell you the charm would save your life?
He's inside with the boy.
You may go back to your class now, Antoine.
Thank you, monsieur.
Was your trip successful, Doctor?
Yes, you were right.
Good.
Mr. Holmes, was the boy able to tell you anything?
No, but his silence was eloquent. If I may have the use of the headmaster's study for a little gathering shortly before midnight,
You'll name the killer.
he'll name himself.
It's almost midnight, Mr. Holmes. Must we wait much longer?
I believe you all know Count Passavant, and he knows all of you, except, of course, my friend, Dr. Watson. Will you take that chair, please, Count?
Thank you.
Mademoiselle Grant, gentlemen, we are concerned with the murder of Monsieur Carolin and 3 other citizens of Arlo before him.
But, Mr. Holmes, I assure you they died natural deaths.
No, Doctor, they were murdered. The question is, with what motive?
But no one here had anything to gain. But I would never...
I know, monsieur. The motive was financial profit.
But all the victims were of modest means.
True. The murderer could never enrich himself through the victims. However, a thought occurred to me, and I went to see the Count de Passavant. I asked him if his life had been threatened.
It has been.
And this is the feature of the case which I find most intriguing. Note, blackmail has been a frequent prelude to murder, but here, murder was the prelude to blackmail. What was demanded of you, Count?
100,000 francs.
And if you didn't pay?
My name would appear next on the church steps.
Extortion was the motive from the first. And to that end, an atmosphere of terror was built up by means of 4 successive murders. It would have taken a man of superhuman courage to resist.
But, Mr. Holmes, the names were written by one of our pupils.
Antoine? An unwitting tool. Now, I believe the 4 victims were poisoned.
By whom? The blackmailer must be someone who had knowledge of poisons.
Don't distress yourself, Madame Soulet. The killer meant suspicion to fall on you. But a person of your simple habits wouldn't play so dangerous a game. No. There is a suspect at hand who not only has a knowledge of poisons, but to whom the boy has been far more accessible. Accessible regularly once a month. This suspect was once a pupil of Dr. Charcot, who lectured on hypnotism at Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris. It would have been as easy for him to send Antoine on his monthly errand as to wind a mechanical toy. Dr. Watson.
Yes?
In Paris yesterday, you inquired into the education of this suspect and into his character. What did you discover?
I discovered that he was a gambler and a spendthrift, and that he left Paris in order to escape his creditors.
Shall I? Calm yourself, Dr. Dimanche. If you're innocent, you have nothing to fear. You see, I, too, have dabbled in hypnotism. This afternoon, Antoine and I had a session. I suggested to him that he come down to this room at midnight. and point out the person who instructed him to write on the church steps. The person whose name he'd been instructed not to remember when out of the hypnotic trance. It lacks but 1 minute to 12 now.
Very well, you are. All of you.
Don't be a fool, Doctor. When I visited your surgery this afternoon to look over your stock of drugs, I took the precaution of emptying your gun of cartridges.
But, Mr. Holmes, are you certain it was Dr. Dimanche? Should we not wait for the boy to make the identification?
Mademoiselle, Mr. Holmes's deductions are always completely accurate and always completely truthful. But the method by which he arrives at these results are not always completely straightforward.
You mean the boy will not come? It was a bluff?
I'm afraid so, Monsieur Maneri. But as you can see, it worked. How did you know it was a bluff?
You said that it wasn't loaded either.
I'll unpack and then I'll make some tea. Holmes, have you got any tobacco? Coat pocket.
This is very nice.
Like it? I haven't had the chance to try it yet.
It's really excellent. Where did you get it?
Dr. Dimanche gave it to me.